Hello and welcome to this review on my Les Paul Gibson. It's this one, which I bought last week, and this is a Gibson Les Paul, and it's a 56 reissue, what they call a VOS, which stands for Vintage Original Specification, and it was made in 2014, but I bought it in 2019, so it's essentially about 5 years old. Just a bit of a disclaimer here, although I was a professional guitarist all my working life, teaching and playing in bands, I'm by no means an expert on guitars, so please bear that in mind when you watch this review. If you want to go straight to where I play the thing, you can hear all the sounds, then go to the place on the video marked by this timestamp. A little bit of history. I used to play an ES175 Gibson, which is the Stevie Howe one, back in the 70s, and then I moved on to a 335, which is like the Chuck Berry style, kind of semi-acoustic electric by Gibson, and then I started playing Strats. I did buy a Les Paul Lite in the 90s, which was a bit of a disappointment. I never really connected with it. It was a beautiful looking guitar. It was blue, and it didn't have any sort of fancy bits, and it had a lovely ebony neck. But for some reason I never got on with it, never connected with it, and I sold it. And sadly the person who bought it from me, one of my guitar students, his wife knocked it over and the head was snapped off. I think he got it repaired, but I don't think it was ever the same since. Anyway, that's a bit of ancient history. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking at some videos online of people trying the new Gibson Les Pauls that have just come out. And it kind of piqued my interest. I love the sound, particularly of the guitars with the P90s, these pickups here, and I'll talk about those in a while. Anyway, my local store, which is called Lee Music Company, is run by a guy called Tom, who deals with me down there. And it's a great place. It's like stepping back in time, in sort of the middle 60s or the late 60s. It's quite a small store, quite exclusive. Right, he hasn't got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guitars on the wall, but he does have, a few budget ones, quite a few nice ones, and this one was on there, and I had a go on it, and there was no pressure. I'm not sponsored by Lee Music Company. I should add to this, just to say that I was, very pleased with the service I got down there. I tried the guitar out, and it had a set of 10s on it, which means, if you don't know, that the E string was a 10, and then obviously they go up from there, and it was a bit hard for me to bend. I'm a bit of a blues player, I guess, so a country player, so I like to bend the strings. I found it a bit hard for my poor old fingers. I asked him to restring it with 9s to see if I got on better with it, which he kindly did, with no obligation, and it transformed the guitar, and I practically instantly said yes to it. So here it is. This guitar's got a Bigsby, which is obviously this tremolo unit here, which a lot of people hate. Is a bit of a relic from, I guess, maybe the 40s or the 50s. I'm not a historian on these things. It's a pretty old system. It's got this gigantic spring on it, which you might be able to see better there, in that shot there. And as you'll see when I play it, it's not for sort of dive bombing you do on a sort of super Strat. It's just for a bit of light tremolo. It doesn't help the tuning of the guitar too much, but it's not terrible. Like I say, it's a bit of a Marmite thing. Some people hate the look of these things. Some people like me love them. I was warned on the internet that I wouldn't be able to do palm muting. That's not true. I can do palm muting just fine. It doesn't affect that in any way at all. I do think that if I took this off and just had a hardtail, it would leave a few unsightly holes, so I'm not going to do that. And you can park it round here, and there's a kind of a stop or there, and it makes it fine to play, and it's like you haven't got the thing on. So let's tell you some specs, and you can skip this if you're not interested. I've done a little database here, so forgive me for reading from it. Like I say, year of manufacture is 2014. It was made in the custom shop Nashville in the United States. It's a factory just east of Nashville. It had one previous owner, so that's good, isn't it? So I kind of know the history of it. This colour is called Sunrise Tea Burst. I don't really know why, but I'm sure there's a reason. But that's the colour. Although I've seen other guitars on the net called Sunrise Tea Burst look nothing like this, so I'm not quite sure what that actually means, but that's what this is called. I thought it was going to weigh about 10 pounds, but it actually weighs 8.5 pounds. I know for a fact it hasn't got any weight relief. Some of these Les Pauls have got kind of holes drilled in the body. You can't see them, they're obviously covered up to bring down the weight, because they are heavy old things. You know, if I was a young man playing in a band, I wouldn't want one of these because it's a fair old weight to have around your neck. But it's about 1.5 pounds heavier than my Strat, but not as heavy as my Schecter, which is quite interesting. So not as terrible as you might think. And you think the Bigsby would make it really heavy, but as I say, by my reckoning, it's 8.5 pounds. Yeah, the body is a one-piece chunk of mahogany, so I think that's pretty dense wood. And the top here is two-piece plain maple, and it's all kind of glued on. This binding is called Royalite, and it's just a one-ply. And the neck joint, where the neck is glued to the body, apparently that's got a long tenon. That's like a long piece of wood that goes into the body, and it's all glued together, of course. The neck, this being a 50s reissue, is what a lot of people call the baseball bat. I don't know if you can see that there, but it's a chunky old C-shaped neck. And in fact, it's the same at the 5th fret, same width at the 5th fret as my Gibson J45 acoustic, if I just get that off the wall. So these two guitars have got the same kind of neck, certainly at the 5th fret, exactly the same width. So it shows you how chunky it is. I've got very long fingers, so I don't find it difficult, so I find it very comfortable, but some people, I guess, might not like that. So for those of you who like facts and figures, at the 1st fret, right the way around, it's 4 5/8 inches. At the 5th fret, it's 4 7/8, and at the 12th fret, it's 5 1/4 inches round. So it's, like I say, a pretty chunky old neck. But, you know, no problem for me. I find it very comfortable indeed. Scale length is the standard 24 3/4, and if you don't know what scale length means, it means the distance from the nut to the bridge. I think it's from the middle of the nut to the middle of the bridge, but I wouldn't swear to that, but it's that kind of distance between my two fingers there. It's got the trapezoid inlays on the fingerboard. I don't think they're mother of pearl. I think they're some kind of aged cellulose, but anyway, that's what they are. And they're all beautifully put in, and there's no sort of tooling marks on this fingerboard, which is Indian rosewood, by the way. And it's got these fret nibs, which means that the binding is put over the ends of the frets. I don't know if you can see that there. If I put it in there, you can see it's covering up the ends of the frets. It's really nicely done. So like the body, the neck is mahogany, okay, and like I say, it's got a Indian rosewood fingerboard on top. Now the radius, that means kind of the curve of the fingerboard, is 12 inches, which means it's pretty flat. So if you think of this part of the fingerboard across here as the part of a circle, part of the circumference of a circle, if you carried that circle all the way around and back, the diameter of that would be 24 inches, so half of that, the radius, is 12 inches. So it's got a 12-inch radius, so it's got a pretty flat neck, which again I find really comfortable. I like that. I'm not particularly fond of guitars that have a curved fingerboard, or very curved. And obviously they've all got some kind of curve, but I don't particularly like them when they're really, you know, proud, as it were. So obviously the larger the number of the radius, okay, the flatter the fingerboard. I think that's the idea. If I've got that wrong, please forgive me, but you know, that's what I think I've worked out to be correct. So the nut width is 1 6/8 inches, and at the end of the fretboard up here, you've got a width of 2 1/4 inches. So it tapers out 1 6/8 here and 2 1/4 inches here. Okay. I don't know what the frets are. They feel very comfortable to me. If you're an expert on these things, you might even be able to see, but you know, they feel very nice to me. And it being a 5-year-old guitar, I don't think it's had a lot of use. Obviously there's plenty of wear left in them. The tuners, you've got the standard Clouson tuners with these kind of plasticky pegs, and they work absolutely fine. No problems at all. Oh, by the way, I should have said there are 22 frets, as you would imagine. On the control side of things, you've got the what they call the gold top hats, Now there's no scratch plate, as we call it in England. In America I think it's called a pick guard. There's no scratch plate, and that was intentional by the person who ordered this guitar. It being a custom, of course you can have what you want. I do have the scratch plate, it's in the guitar case, but it wasn't fitted, so there are no nasty holes, because obviously once it's fitted you've got the holes, and then of course if you take it off you've got those grinning away at you, reminding you. So no holes, because it was never fitted. So it's kind of very Gary Moore. I really like that plain look, really think that looks cool. This switch tip is made of amber Catalan, I think. It's like Bakelite, I think. And it's the typical 3-position switch with the wash around it that says rhythm and treble. So very, very traditional Gibson. Getting into the electrics. Inside here you've got Bumblebee capacitors. Again, I'm no expert. I know a lot of Les Pauls have the orange drop capacitors. This one's got Bumblebees. I've no idea why that is and what difference that makes, but there you are, that's what it's got. And of course the most important thing, the pickups are the classic P90 soap bars, which I think were on the very, very first 1952 gold tops. Normally these custom Les Pauls like this come with a gold top, but whoever ordered this didn't want that, and I'm pleased, because I much prefer this finish to the gold top. I know a lot of people love that gold top, but I love this sunburst finish, and I like it better. These pickups are not humbuckers, in case you don't know. Forgive me if you know all this, and you can skip all this of course. They are very high powered single coil pickups. They do make a bit of a racket through the amp, as you'll see, and you have to work your way around that by turning away from the amp or using a noise gate, and you'll see all that as I get to it. And the guitar has a nice hard shell case, which I won't show you, it's very boring, but it's a pretty standard hard shell Gibson case. One reason that I bought this guitar was I love the look of it, and I actually think it's fairly rare. I've looked and looked and looked, and I can't see another one like this from that year. I can't see another 56 reissue in this finish with a Bigsby, so it's fairly rare. So hopefully it will go up in value, and when I shuffle off this mortal coil and my children, my lads who are both musicians, get hold of this, hopefully it will be worth quite a bit more than I paid for it last week. That's the plan anyway. I'm not planning on disappearing just yet, so hopefully I'll get a few years of enjoying it. I'm using a PV amp over here, and it's a PV Nashville, which I bought about 10 years ago second hand when I was playing pedal steel guitar. It's a very, very clean amp. I'm not really a metal merchant. I do like a bit of distortion. I've got some Boss pedals there, and I use my Metal Zone pedal for that distortion, which I find perfectly adequate. And I've also got a fair amount of software on my Mac that I use when I'm recording. So it's a pretty clean transistor amp. I don't know what the output is. It's fairly high. It's certainly enough what I've ever needed gig-wise and home-wise. So it's not the classic Les Paul Marshall combination that a lot of people like. Who knows, I might end up with a Marshall amp. I did have one a few years ago. In fact, I bought a Marshall stack back in 1992, and anyway, that's another story. I won't bore you with that. But anyway, PV Nashville, clean amp, not turned up particularly high, and a load of Boss pedals. One thing that is quite tricky with this guitar is getting comfortable. For me, sitting down is a must because I'm quite old. Getting the strap set right is also important. Make sure it's on properly, you don't want it falling off. And I use a footstool, not in the classical Segovia kind of way, on my left leg. I put it on underneath my right leg. I've got it set fairly shallow here, and out of shot here. It's underneath my right leg, so that and the strap set fairly short. So there we are, that's pretty comfortable. Right foot on the footstool, strap holding it up. So these guitars are pretty bottom heavy, they do tend to fall away from you. If you've not had one of these, I should warn you about that. It's not like a strap which is really comfortable to sit and play, stand and play. These can be quite tricky, and it's worth spending some time getting your playing position right so you're comfortable, otherwise you're going to get worn out fairly quickly. In the background over here you can see my Line 6 Variax guitar, which is a modelling guitar, and it's got one of these guitars inside it, if you like. It kind of mimics this guitar, so we'll do a bit of an A-B test later on. To my ears, I actually think it's pretty good. But you know, I might have to change my mind. I might have to eat my words when I listen back to this, but we'll do that at the end of this review. So this is just the basic clean sound with the bridge pickup. I think these pickups are identical. It's just obviously where they're placed in the body of the guitar makes the difference. So this is the bridge pickup, everything turned up full. And that's a pretty nice, clean rhythm sound, isn't it? And nice for picking. Okay, it's a transistor amp, so it's got that kind of sort of creamy sound to it, but I'd say that's quite nice. Let's go to the neck pickup. Again, everything turned on full volume, tone. You probably wouldn't play rhythm using that setting, even though it's marked as rhythm. It always makes me laugh. So that's that pickup. I have to say that I tend to use the bridge pickup mainly. Let's have both pickups on. And I'd say that's a pretty typical Gibson sound. Let me just demonstrate the Bigsby while I've got it like this. So I'm going to swing the arm round here, and if I just play a chord and operate the tremolo, it's nice for that. It's a bit of gentle vibrato on a chord, nice for harmonics, but you know, you wouldn't do much more than that, I don't think. But it's a nice addition which you may or may not use. And as I say, a lot of people don't like these things, and you know, I understand why. If you come to this neck straight after playing your Strat, you are going to find it, you know, quite weird. But if you just pick it up first thing in the morning, it feels perfectly natural to me. And it's lovely to do string bending. Feels really nice. Let's talk about the finish of this guitar, because I think because it's a 56 model, they don't use polyurethane. I think they use kind of a cellulose, which is thinner, and I'm not sure I buy into all this, but anyway, apparently the guitar warms up a lot quicker with the heat of your body. The wood breathes more. Obviously it's not as durable as polyurethane, so you know, you will pick up the odd scratch a bit quicker. I think, I'm not sure, I mean, it could be a load of rubbish I'm talking, but I think that's the general idea. This guitar has got, I thought this had got a scratch on it. I'm going to move into the camera here and show you this. But basically, I don't know if you can see this here, where my fingers, you may not be able to see it, but along there, there is what I thought was a scratch. It was actually underneath the cellulose. So this might even be a factory second. It's definitely been, it's definitely had the cellulose painted over it, so I'm not sure. It kind of goes into just where the pickup is as well. I'm not sure that the camera's picking that up. It's got a few dings underneath it here, bit of buckle rash, 2 sort of dents here. You know, nothing's going to really worry me for sure. But condition wise, you know, it's pretty good. Couple of dings on the back, bit of buckle rash, like I say, but generally it's excellent, and the fingerboard is absolutely perfect. Now, like I say, I've used a lot of software over the years, but I really love this setup I've got over here, the Boss pedals and the PV Nashville. I particularly like this Boss compression sustainer. I'm going to put that on. We'll have a listen to that. Obviously, you're getting that P90 noise coming through a bit. Can you hear that? Bit of a hum there, but when you play, you don't really hear it, and you get this. You hear the plectrum hitting the string. I love that click. And do a bit of palm muting. mustn't play any famous riffs in this because apparently people are getting copyright strikes even for just playing a part of a famous guitarist, so I've got to be careful I don't do any of that. But I love that, and it sounds great on this guitar. And again, it's with the bridge pickup, which I really like. Let's have a bit of chorus. Hopefully I'll get away with that. You may have recognised that chord sequence from a famous song. But it sounds great, doesn't it? I mean, it hasn't got tons and tons of top, but it has got tons and tons of warmth, and it's going to sound great recorded, I know. Right, how about a bit of distortion? I'll use my metal zone for this. And it's really nice, isn't it? Just sounds great, that, doesn't it? It's got a really lovely kind of squawky sound. Let's try it with the neck pickup. Well, it's got a lovely thick sound, hasn't it? Just roll the tone down a bit. Both pickups. It's another world there, isn't it? I mean, I know this is not the same as having the amp cranked up and doing it kind of naturally rather than using pedals, but I can't really do that here. I feel too sorry for my neighbours. We'll try it with a bit of delay. So here is the bridge pickup with the metal zone and some delay. It's a great sound, I love it. And I was under the misapprehension that P90s, these soap bar pickups, can't make that sound. I always thought you only got that from humbuckers. Obviously that really isn't true, is it? Let's use my little looper and just play a little bit of rhythm, and then we'll sort of track some other stuff on, okay? So a bit of straightforward rhythm first of all. Compression on, clean sound. And we'll just add a bit of distortion. Yeah, my looping skills are not great because I've only just had this thing for a couple of days and I'm still learning. I'm still making loads of mistakes with it, but you know, that gives you a bit of an idea. Right, final thing, let's just compare the sound of this, just bridge pickup, clean sound, no distortion, no compression. So basically this kind of sound. Right, so my Variax is supposed to make this sound. Okay, so it's a 1952 Les Paul Gold Top with P90s and the bridge pickup. So not quite the same as this, but pretty close. So this is obviously my Gibson. Right, I'm now going to change over to my Variax and see if it sounds anything like it. Like I say, to my ears, listening to it, it sounds pretty close, and we'll see when we actually compare in a moment. So there we are. That's the end of this review of my Les Paul Gibson. Hope you enjoyed it. Please forgive all my bumbling errors, especially with the looper there while I'm learning how to use that. But hopefully you found this interesting, and if you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel, which of course is Daddy Long Les, as it says there. I really enjoy playing this guitar, and if you're contemplating buying one of these things, this might just help you make your mind up one way or the other. Obviously it's a custom guitar, it's dearer than the standard one you're going to buy. I think new, these are about, well, getting on for about £4,000. I didn't pay that, of course, because this one's used, but bear in mind, you know, a custom job can run out to almost double your standard Les Paul. So there we are. Thank you very much for watching, and you'll see me in my next video.